My name is Jessie Ace. I'm part of a group of enabled warriors that you've probably never heard of. We're fighting back against our invisible illness and taking the dis out of disability. We don't give sympathy to our symptoms. They enable us to be the warrior that we are. If you ask doctors and nurses, they'd say what we're doing is impossible. But pushing the limits of our conditions is something that we have to break through every single day. See, we push the limits. We are mentally strong, and we can do anything. The question is, how far can we push those limits? This podcast will give you the answers. I'm Jessie Ace, and this is the Disabled to Enabled podcast. Enabled Warriors, on today's show, we have a blinder of a guest. She takes on her illness every day alongside her quirky, prehistoric knitted companion, Dizzy. She was diagnosed at 25 years old with multiple sclerosis and runs one of the coolest blogs I have ever seen, Dinosaurs, Donkeys and MS. I love that. She's taking on the world with chronic illness one donkey at a time, and she's here with us today. Enabled Warriors, please help me in welcoming our next guest, the amazing Heather Russell-Kay and Dizzy, everybody. Woo!
Hello.
How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I have to say, I love your top, your dress that you're wearing. It's got loads of little rabbits on it.
It's got little bunny rabbits on it.
Yes, I love that.
Pretty much all of my clothes have some sort of animals on them.
I love that. So let's go straight in by asking, so let's go back to that day when everything started to go a little bit haywire. Can you describe what happened, and did you have any symptoms like before the diagnosis or anything, or what happened that day? Just go into that.
It was kind of gradual. So I used to do loads of walking. I walked to work and I was teaching, so I was on my feet all the time. And it sounds like the most random little symptom ever, but I'd be walking to work and then I'd have to stop if there was a car coming like on the road, and literally I'd get kind of like a fizzing, tingling feeling at the base of my spine. It sounds completely random, and I've never heard anyone else say that they've had the same thing, but every time I stopped it would just be a little tingly fizzy and then it would kind of disperse outwards. It was really odd, but I kind of put it down to maybe I'm walking too much, maybe I've like pulled my back or something, but that was kind of the first thing I noticed. And then a couple of weeks later I kind of started getting tingling in my feet, but all the time. So a typical kind of like pins and needles feeling, but at that time I had no idea that you could get that from anything to do with nerves. So I spent weeks convinced that I was going to die of a blood clot. Because the only
kind of all go through that.
But the only thing that I could link pins and needles to was circulation, and it was all the time. So I was like, it's circulation, and then I was googling and I was like, oh no, if you have blood clots and then they travel, and it was just awful. But then I started to get pains and still the fizzing sensation in my legs, but I was getting them in both legs at exactly the same time. Literally days of me going, it can't be a blood clot because it can't travel from that leg to that leg so quickly.
Yeah, that wouldn't really work, would it?
Literally, like, it hits one just at the same time that it hits the other one. So I had a few weeks of that, and then I got it in my hands as well, so it was kind of spreading around to different areas. And at that point I thought, I'll go and see the doctor and just say that I'm getting all these weird tingling sensations. So they sent me for blood test for kind of the typical anemia, B12 deficiency and that kind of thing. And I wasn't that worried at that point, because once I'd decided it wasn't a blood clot, that was when I started to think, okay, maybe I'm a bit anemic, or maybe I'm not getting enough off something, or maybe I've pulled something, or my legs just need a rest. So I kind of thought, I'm not going to worry too much. And at the same time I was kind of getting a bit dizzy as well, but I've always been really bad in the heat, and it was the beginning of the summer. So I started to put things down to the summer, you know, when you kind of start rationalizing things and you're it's okay, it's just the heat, or I'm a vegetarian as well, so maybe I'm not getting enough iron at the moment for whatever reason. And then I went on holiday with my new boyfriend. We've been together 5 years now. But at that point we've been together for literally a week, maybe 2 weeks. We'd been
Oh, wow.
friends for 6 months, so we'd already decided to go away as friends, but we just properly got together. And I remember we were trying to walk up this hill, and we literally got round the first little bit. I just had to stop, like my legs were hurting so much. I was feeling really lightheaded, but I still thought it's the heat, it's the upward climb. And then on the morning that we were due to come back, I got up and I just had the worst vertigo that I've ever, was just spinning round and round, and it went on for about 4 or 5 hours.
Oh gosh.
Oh, it was, I've never had it like that. It was horrible. Like, that was probably one of the worst MS times ever, because I'm someone that likes to feel quite in control, and you have no control when you literally, everything's spinning, and I couldn't keep anything down. So even when I was trying to drink water, it sounds horrible, but I was just like being sick everywhere because obviously my body couldn't cope with it. And then because of the vertigo, my eyes were starting to do, there is a name for it, but when you can't control your eyes, they keep like flickering backwards and forwards. It was not pleasant. So we ended up in hospital, and then I ended up on a drip. And I remember I kept saying to them that I keep getting all of my tingly pins and needles and things, but they just didn't seem to even put the two together.
Oh wow. Okay.
And because the vertigo started to get a little bit better by the middle of the night, I remember them saying to me that it's definitely nothing to do with your brain, because it started to get better, which obviously now we know that it definitely, yeah. So they sent me off saying that it was an inner ear infection. So I had to get some sort of, they gave me some tablets for the dizziness and stuff, which didn't make any difference. And then the whole summer was basically just piling on more symptoms. So I started to like lose coordination down one side. I had like the vision, blurry vision, and when I put my head down, I was getting the shooting sensations, numbness pretty much everywhere, and it just kind of, yeah, went on for about 3 months.
Oh god.
Getting worse and worse.
So how old were you when everything started to happen?
24.
Right. Okay. So it kind of went on for about a year until it.
Well, it was over the summer, and I kept going back to the doctors. The blood tests all came back fine, which was obviously a good thing, but bad in the sense that they just put it down as an inner ear infection. And then when I had the numbness everywhere, it was one of those days that I woke up and I thought, nope, I'm going. They're going to take this seriously. And I'd done the wrong thing that you're not supposed to, doctor Googling, but MS was like the only thing that came up for the symptoms that I had. So I was very sure at that point that that was what it was. But I remember them saying to me, it's not MS, because I had it on both sides. It was very strange.
Yeah, I think sometimes it just seems to be a really hard thing to diagnose. Like I hear so many misdiagnosis stories.
I know.
You just kind of think, why are you cutting all of these ideas out straight away? Why not, at least entertain them, and at least like, think that it actually could be that.
That's what I was thinking. I think they also very much target things individually. So they put the dizziness down to the inner ear infection. They put the numbness down to that I'd hurt my neck. And then they put everything else down to the fact that I was starting to get a bit stressed by it all. So they thought because I was getting stressed, that was causing the other symptoms. But you kind of think, if you looked at the whole picture, you get MS. But because they were targeting everything individually, no one was actually thinking, maybe they kind of go together.
Exactly.
So when that doctor put it down to stress, that was probably the worst time for me, because what do you do when the doctors don't listen to you? And I couldn't go out because I was so dizzy and my coordination was all off. So I was relying on someone else to pretty much drag me to go out. And I just thought, what on earth do you do in this situation? You go to the medical professionals, but they don't listen. So where do you go after that? But I did end up paying to see a neurologist privately and having an MRI scan, because by that point I was very, very, very sure it was MS, and I knew that you needed an MRI scan. But as soon as I saw that neurologist, even he said it's all typical MS symptoms. So once I saw the right person, even before he did all the tests, he knew. that it was that.
Did you say anything to your doctor when you were kind of looking on Google and you kind of saw that it was possible MS? Did you kind of go to your doctor and was like, look, I've Googled it and this is what it could be? Could you do something?
I know what you mean. I did say that to an out of hours doctor,
right? Okay.
That I saw. I said, I think it's MS, but she was the one that said she was very sure it wasn't, because you know how I was saying that I was getting it both on the same side at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
She was saying that MS targets one side.
Right.
So
okay.
she said she was very sure that it wasn't because I was getting it on both sides. Yeah. So I was happy that day because I was like, oh, it's not that then. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's just messing up your head though, isn't it? It's just like, yeah, no, it's not. It's you're fine, and then you're like, oh no, it is. You've got it, and you're like, what?
Yeah, it was a complete roller coaster. So I felt happy for a day.
Yeah.
And then the numbness was increasing, and I was looking back on Google, and people had it on both sides. So then I was back to thinking it was that, and your head's just all over the place.
Yeah, which doesn't help you at all.
No.
So did you know anything about MS before you were diagnosed? Were you given any like leaflets or anything when you were diagnosed properly?
I didn't know anything about it. I feel really bad because now, if people don't know much about it, I think we should be more aware of invisible illnesses, and especially when you can't see it. But literally, if anyone said MS, I thought of people in wheelchairs.
That's
which I feel. I feel bad now because if people say that, I'm like, it's not like that at all.
It's really not. Really not.
But that's the image I had, and in my head, I couldn't understand how you could get something that would cause you to be in a wheelchair. So I just assumed that people were born with the condition. So you were in a wheelchair from when you were born, and now I'm like, oh, that sounds awful. I can't believe I even thought that. But I didn't know anyone with the condition, so I didn't have any knowledge of it. Yeah. And it's not one of those conditions that you actually see that much around about either.
No, it's not something that people are openly talking about like all the time in the media. I know there's like some celebrities that have come out with it and said like, oh yeah, I have this, but I think quite often it's portrayed through social media, and on social media everything looks fine and perfect. You know, they don't tend to show their like really worst days. I mean, like Selma Blair was amazing because she actually did a interview during a relapse, didn't she? Which is just phenomenal.
No, I don't even know how she managed it.
I know, I don't either, but oh gosh. But yeah, most of the time it is just like, you know, everything's fine, everything's rosy kind of thing.
And there's just not much, if you don't know someone with it, it's not something that you kind of come across either. Like you said, you don't really see people kind of on the news with the condition or anything. So it just wasn't anything that kind of entered my world at all.
No, exactly.
But when I was diagnosed, there wasn't that much information. I think I kind of took my neurologist by surprise because I was so sure that that was the diagnosis that was coming. I remember turning up and I was saying, right, I've looked at the drugs and I don't want this sort of drug. This one I think looks good. I don't really like injections, but I know that there's this new one, and I could just see like, okay, I'm just here to give you the diagnosis today. But I was kind of already past that.
Yeah.
I was on to the next thing. But there wasn't that much. It was very much kind of, right, we'll send out an MS nurse to come and see you, and then they will talk to you about kind of how to manage it and the different drugs that are available. But there wasn't kind of, I think in his head that day it was, I'm giving the diagnosis and then they need time to process. But I was I was there with my questions, my little list of all the drug options available. But yeah, there wasn't much at all. It was very much, okay, here's your diagnosis and we will send someone to see you.
So that's really interesting, isn't it? That they just, I don't know whether it's they don't know much about it themselves, or whether they, you know, they don't know, I don't know, it's like the latest research or something. But it's like they should hand you something, I think.
I think just some sort of leaflets.
Yeah.
And I think also information just about how it's different for everyone, because I was still in that stage of kind of worrying that it was kind of going to be worst case scenario. And I think just having someone there to really sort of talk to you and say, actually, it's not the best diagnosis, but it is different for everyone, so no one quite knows how it's going to progress or what's going to happen. And I think just some reassurance at that stage would be really nice.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, I didn't realize that there were so many different types of MS. There were so many different drugs available. Like, I didn't even realize that people had different symptoms. I thought it
Did
was
you
just like
not?
I thought it was just like getting a cold, you know, like everybody shows standard symptoms, but it's really not like that at all.
I know, and you never meet someone else with the same symptoms. It's so bizarre that it's one condition, but it's so different.
Yeah. So that was the thing that really confused me, I think, when I was first diagnosed. It's just that it was different for everybody. I
Oh
could
no,
not get
it
my head around it.
is. It's so strange because you can still relate to people,
Yeah.
but you might have symptoms and they're like, what?
It's so funny. So how does your MS affect you day to day? Like, and do you do anything differently now than what you used to do?
I think the main thing is just resting all the time. So for me, I'd already kind of been dealing with the fatigue side of it. I never know whether it was kind of MS first popping up, but I was diagnosed with ME when I was 15, 16
Okay.
because I was having the extreme tiredness. I was pretty much sleeping all the time.
Right.
But now I look back, you never know whether it's the first symptoms or whether I have ME and MS or whether it was the MS. I don't know. So I'd
Okay.
kind of already got used to having to rest, even though it did get better after a year or two. I've never been someone that's had loads of energy, has been able to go out and stay up all night, nothing like that. But I think since having MS, I've definitely had to rest more.
Mm.
So whereas before, after kind of the first year, but that's kind of typical of MS as well, is I kind of had really bad fatigue and then I started to come out of it a little bit. So I never know if that was kind of first relapsey, who knows,
Who
type
knows?
thing. Who knows? But now I'm definitely have to be even more aware of it, because if I do push things a little bit too far, then I get like the dizziness and tingling and the vertigo and everything comes back.
Oh.
So I think the biggest thing is having to plan every day. So everything that I do, I need to make sure that I have time in between to have a little nap. And if there's any days that are a bit busier than normal, I actually find myself getting a bit of a panic about it the day before, kind of how much am I going to pay for this.
Yeah, that I do as well.
Yeah, so it's just kind of having to make sure that everything is so carefully organized.
Yeah, with military precision. I
Yeah, and I've
can't even
never
say the
been
word.
I've never been kind of super spontaneous or anything. I do like things kind of set, but
Yeah.
now it's even more so. There's no kind of, oh, I'm going to go to London for the day and
Oh
go to the
no.
museum and the park and do this, because then it's kind of, okay, there's no time for naps in that, so that's not an option.
No, I mean, to be honest, it really freaks me out if somebody says like, "Oh, let's go and have a day out somewhere. Let's go meet up with some friends." Like quite a long way away. Like we went to Bristol not long ago to go meet up with some friends, and they didn't really understand a lot about MS. It was quite hard to just kind of go, "Look, I'm going to go drowsy around about this time," and they're like, "How do you know that? Like, why does that happen?" Like, and then you kind of have to explain, like, yeah, I can't really walk that fast. I can't really go there. It just
It
feels
is
so awkward
really
all the time.
difficult. And I think also being younger as well, everyone
Yeah,
thinks that you should be in the prime of your life,
tell me about
fitness and energy
it.
wise. And that makes it really difficult when people say to you, oh, at your age. You're thinking,
Drives me crazy when people say that. It's like, just because I'm young, it doesn't mean that I'm perfectly healthy. Just because I look fine on the outside doesn't mean I am on the
and
inside.
a lot of people assume that as well, that you should
Yeah,
be having lots of energy to do everything that you want to. And there's you thinking,
yeah,
right, 2 hours, I need a little nap.
too much. Too much. But the important thing is that you just keep going.
It is, though, it's keep going, but sensibly.
Yeah.
Early nights, naps.
And don't be stubborn like me.
Oh no, I can be really stubborn. I'm exactly the same. So a few times I have pushed it too far and then I end up paying for it. And my boyfriend's always like, I told you.
Yeah,
Told
yeah,
you.
yeah. I know. Do you find that he can see like the first stages of like when you should be stopping, but you're not? Do you find that he gets that?
Yeah. Or if I'm
Yeah.
starting to feel more tired than normal,
Mm.
he'll say, right, you need to take some time off, take a few days. But the thing is, I'm terrible. I don't like letting people down or anything.
No.
It's one of the really difficult things about this kind of condition is sometimes you have to let people down. And I
Yeah.
hate doing that.
Oh,
But
it's
he'll tell
horrible.
me, right, you need to stop, and then I'll keep going. It's like, you're going to do it, you're going to have a relapse because you keep going. But it's so hard to stop though. It's so difficult to unless you kind of have to, it's really hard to think, right, I'm just going to take a week out just to stay in bed, and you need to, but it is hard.
It is hard to find. And I think you can only do really the best that you can.
Yeah.
So can you describe the person that you were before all the diagnosis happened, and then where you are now? Like, do you find that it's changed you in any way?
I think the main thing it's kind of taught me is to appreciate the little things. I think before I was very much focused on the future all the time, so I was very much planning constantly, right, I'm going to do this and it's going to lead to this and I'm going to do this, and that was where my head was all the time, instead of kind of being, I still find it tricky to be in the moment, but to more kind of live each day as it comes and appreciate each day and what you can do in those days. And I actually think that's a really positive thing, because before, when you're always living in the future, you're not so much enjoying each day.
No, you're not appreciating what you've got right this second either.
No, because you're always thinking on to the next thing. And I think part of it, I think it is just how our society is, because we are very much always on the go and looking forward and thinking, right, where can we progress to? But actually slowing down is a really nice way of taking life, I find, and appreciating things. So I kind of feel like it put things into perspective. And I think I definitely started looking after myself more as well. So I used to find it really, really difficult to say no to people and things. So if someone asked me to do something that I didn't want to do, or to go out somewhere that I really didn't want to go, I'd find it so hard to say no. But actually, when something to do with health comes up, it has to become a priority. And I've learned to say no to things and kind of think, do I really want to do that? Do we want to waste those, the spoons and energy on that? So it's also taught me that as well, which is actually a really nice thing to be able to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think it does give you a very different perspective on life.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Which is a nice thing. I kind of feel like if I hadn't had MS, I probably wouldn't have learned this stuff for another 20 or 30 years down the line. So actually I kind of,
So can we talk a little bit about your blog? Now, I am a little bit obsessed with your blog, not gonna lie.
I'm glad. Dizzy's very happy about this. Whenever we get nice compliments, Dizzy's always so pleased.
I love Dizzy. I think he's so cute. So where did Dizzy come from? Can you tell us a little bit about it? Did you knit Dizzy?
No, I'm terrible at knitting. People ask me this, and I kind of really want to say yes. So Dizzy's actually from the Donkey Sanctuary in Sidmouth. So whenever people ask me, I always do a little plug for the Donkey Sanctuary, because I love the Donkey Sanctuary. And so there's lots of Dizzies out there, but they all look different, because they're knitted by volunteers, and then they send them to the Donkey Sanctuary to sell. And that means that 100% of the money that they take from the little knitted donkeys actually goes directly to helping donkeys all over the world, which I think is lovely.
Oh, that's so lovely.
So I've had people ask me, and I direct them to the Donkey Sanctuary website. So I think they probably made a little money from my blog, and I do love it, because one person got in touch and they bought their own donkey, and they sent me pictures of the donkey in Australia. There's one in America.
Oh, that's great.
I just think this is so cute that there's these little knitted donkeys in different places because they've seen Dizzy.
And I love the way that you kind of put them in situations as well, which is I think it's really funny. So there was one that I saw where they sat around playing poker or something. They had
They've been doing loads of different things.
Brilliant. I love that, because you turned it into a calendar as well, didn't you?
Yeah. I just love taking all the pictures though. We have so much fun doing that. And I think my favourite one was when we did our own version of the first Harry Potter book.
Oh, yeah.
So they've all got their little cloaks.
So
I just love it. But I think because the main thing was, when I started my blog, MS can be really scary, and I was absolutely terrified for a while, especially leading up to the diagnosis. It was probably the most scared I've ever been. You know, when you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning just feeling that complete oh, it is horrible, and then you can't get back to sleep, and all the worst case scenarios are going round and round your head. And I kind of wanted a blog that it was not too, because at the same time I don't like blogs that are super happy. You know, the ones where they're doing everything and it's like the MS doesn't seem to have any impact on them.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is wonderful, but this isn't making me feel good when I'm really dizzy and really tired, because I'm not going to be able to go skydiving or climb up Mount Everest. So I wanted one that was realistic, but at the same time kind of took the scariness off it. Does that make sense? So it's kind of, everything is okay, but also there's going to be days where it's a bit rubbish as well. So I kind of thought Dizzy made it more, I hope, like approachable and not as scary like the whole MS thing.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does do that, and it definitely, it like softens the blow, if you know what I mean.
And I do love pictures as well. I absolutely love looking at photos. So I also wanted a blog that was very visual as well.
Oh, I love that. That's great. So another little obsession that I've noticed that you have is...
Oh no, I'm like, what's coming?
So congratulations is actually in order, isn't it? Because you've got some new ink. So what was your experience like getting a tattoo?
I don't actually know if I'm going to be able to show it with maybe. It's like here.
Oh wow.
It's on this side though.
That is so cool. I love
It's
that.
like my little 3 dragons.
So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see Heather's tattoo dragons down her arm, which are amazing. I really love them. So what made you get a dragon instead of a dinosaur or a donkey? I mean, Dizzy must
be... don't even start. Dizzy and the donkey thing did not go well. But I've always loved fantasy ever since I was little, and whenever, even from a young age, when I've been having like a bad day or I've been feeling a bit down, I was always grabbing my Harry Potter books and Lord of the Rings. So fantasy has always been just somewhere that I love to get lost in, fantasy worlds.
Yeah.
And I've always loved everything to do with dragons. So there's not kind of a really deep meaning to it. It's just that I do love dragons, but I love anything that's to do with magic and stuff. And I sometimes think in life we kind of move away from that kind of side of things. So for me, I've got my dragons to remind me of the magic in life, and also I just love them. I just love dragons.
Love that. That's so cool. And I don't know if I'd ever be brave enough to get a tattoo. I don't know, but maybe one day. Who knows?
See, people say it to me, but I was absolutely terrified.
I did read your blog entry on that one, and you were like, "Yeah, I got in the car and I nearly turned around. I did not want to go."
The whole way there, I was just, how on earth am I going to be able to sit there while being stabbed with needles?
I can't even like get it in my head.
But I am. People say to me that they're terrible with needles, and I am as well. Literally, if I have a blood test or injection or anything, I have to lie down. Otherwise, I completely pass out. I will actually be on the floor. The last time that I didn't lie down, I actually woke up and my shoe was across the floor. So people say they're bad with needles, and I'm like, I'm really bad with needles because I completely passed out. Like I was gone. And even if people talk to me about blood or injections, I actually have to sit down because I will pass out.
Oh, wow. So what was it actually like then, getting
it actually it wasn't too bad. You're just like, oh no. It wasn't too bad. I did, when I went to see the person that did it originally, so you go for like a little consultation so they can check exactly what you want, and you show them a couple of pictures. And I said then, I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to have to lie down. I'm terrible with needles, blood, anything. And he just went, okay, just remind me when you get here and I'll put the chair, because they have those ones that go back.
Okay.
But that was all he said. I was still, I was feeling so nervous. And then I got there on that day and he'd already put the bed down, which was nice. And I was really feeling like I was going to be sick. And my heart was going. Someone told me that it helps if you like suck on sweets, because we can't be in our flight and fight mode so much.
Okay, that makes sense.
Which did actually help. So I stuffed loads of them in my mouth. And even when I was sitting there, I was thinking, I don't think I can do it. I actually don't think I can go ahead with this.
Oh,
And
wow.
so he was like, I'll just do a little dot just so you can kind of see what it's like. And he did it, and I was like, oh, it literally didn't feel like anything.
Really?
Yeah, so I'd had all this hype,
Oh.
I'd been in such a state, and it literally felt like a pen was being, my arm was just being drawn on with, you know, those, oh, what are they called? The fancy pens, like the fancy ink pens.
Fountain pens?
Yeah, there we go.
Something like that?
Fancy pens. And they had that like little tip on the end.
Okay.
It literally just felt like someone was drawing on my arm with one of them.
Oh,
So there
that's
was
not so
pretty much
bad.
no pain at all. And he said after the first dragon, because I asked him to do one at a time, because then I thought if I really couldn't cope, I could just pretend to people that I just wanted one.
I
That
love
was my plan.
that.
So I said, just please do one, and then that's okay. But after the first one, he said, do you want to look at it? And I was thinking, I really don't want to look at it because if there's any blood or anything, I won't be able to continue. But actually, there wasn't any blood. It just made me look like I'd been rolling in the mud where, because they wipe off the ink, like the excess ink as they go. So you've got bits of ink, but it's kind of rubbed. So it just looked like I'd been rolling in the mud with my arm.
Well, that's not so bad then.
So it actually wasn't as bad as I was thinking at all. And I completely understand now when people say they get addicted to getting more, because I'm already looking forward to getting another one, but I just can't quite decide on design.
Oh, wow.
So if anyone is thinking of doing it but they're worried, I'd say really don't worry. But just check for places that aren't going to hurt, because the forearm is one of the least painful places,
Okay.
which is another
Didn't know
reason
that.
why I picked it. So just, yeah, avoid kind of things like feet and painful places.
Oh, yeah. Do you find that it affected your MS symptoms in any way?
Not at all. I was a little
No,
bit worried
okay.
just because a major trigger for me is stress. And when I
Yeah.
get worried about things, the day after I had my tattoo, I was a little bit wobbly and a bit tired, but that was just because I'd got so stressed the day
Yeah.
before. And I
Makes sense.
know if anything stresses me out, it always hits me the day after. But that's just completely normal for me. And then after I realised that it wasn't actually anything to get stressed about, I was like, oh, there's payback for nothing that I needed to even get stressed with. But apart from that, and that's the thing that's very much unique to me, like I know that's going to happen. But apart from that, I didn't find any difference at all.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because I didn't know whether, so like I'm tingly like all the time, and I didn't know whether if I was to get a tattoo, whether that would like increase tingliness or something as it's been done, or I don't know why really.
I know what you mean. That I was completely the same. I spent so long, and there was a 3-week wait between booking it in and having it done.
Oh god, that'd be the worst 3 weeks ever. Just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Which was really, and it was in a way because he was booked up for that time, which is a positive sign. But it meant that I had 3 weeks of just sitting and googling and worrying, and exactly what you said, I was worried about that because I get tingling in my hands and sometimes in my arms.
Yeah.
So I was just constantly thinking, what happens if it makes things worse, and then I'm stuck with it? But actually it didn't have any effect whatsoever. And looking at other people's stories, I haven't yet found anyone else that's had an increase in symptoms because of it either.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. Because there was another thing that I read in your blog entry as well, which I found really interesting. It's something that I'd never even thought of before, and that's the was it sometimes they use metal in the inks, so having MRIs and stuff, would that interfere with your tattoo?
That was the thing that I was panicking about the most. I googled it and I was looking, I don't know why, things that can go wrong with tattoos.
Just what you want to know.
Before I got my tattoo, obviously I had to Google this at 1 o'clock in the morning when I couldn't sleep.
Oh, no.
But it came up on there. It was saying about if you have MRI scans, that you need to be a bit careful because some ink contains metal.
Right.
So obviously I then spent 2 weeks in a complete panic that this would be it. If I got it done, I'd never be able to have an MRI scan. What would they then do? But after properly researching it, so you can also ask your MS nurse, and I didn't, but I know a couple of other people that did, that I found online, and the nurses said don't worry about it. You can also ask for the type of ink that they're using and look up the ingredients yourself as well. And then I also found a little research. The words have gone today. It's one of those days.
Don't worry
A
about
little
it.
researchy thing where they actually tested people with tattoos in MRI machines. So they had 95 people, and I think between them they had 375 tattoos or something.
Mhm.
And no one was massively covered in tattoos, so it was kind of like 5% of your body could be covered in them.
Yeah.
And there was no reactions. There was one person where they felt a slight pulling on it when they were in there, but that was it, and it went pretty much straight away afterwards, and that was the only reaction that they had. So I read that and I thought, actually, I'm never going to be someone that's completely covered in them, and if that's kind of the only thing, so I kind of thought I could think worst case scenario and not get it done, but I thought for once I'm actually going to be brave and not worry and just do it. But I really didn't come across anything that was kind of like to really worry about.
No, so it's fine. So enabled warriors listening, if you are thinking of getting a tattoo and you do have an MS or another invisible or chronic illness, then just make sure you check with your MS nurse or nurse practitioner or doctor or somebody, just to make absolutely sure that it's okay, but it shouldn't be anything to worry about.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of came to the conclusion with.
Yeah.
As well. And I looked on the MS Society forum. I actually found a whole chat on there.
Oh, cool.
And there was loads of people that had tattoos, and none of them had ever had any problems in the MRI scan or afterwards or anything. So also, because you have MS, it won't affect like the healing rates either.
Yeah, that's the other thing as well, isn't it? Yeah,
a few people had asked that. They were saying, would it take longer to heal? But mine was completely healed in about 2 weeks. So it goes through a weird peeling stage where the top layer kind of peels off. It's not the most attractive. But once it's all peeled off, the top layer is healed, and then it takes a little bit longer to do the underneath layers. I thought it was so clever. Our body heals the top layer to stop things getting into it. Amazing. And then it works downwards. The body is just so clever.
It's just amazing.
It is amazing, but mine, all the peeling stuff was completely done after 2 weeks, which is a normal time. I think it takes longer if you get a massive piece, but I don't think it takes any longer or anything either.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm just like, maybe I should go.
What would you even get done though?
I have no idea, seriously. So like, I've thought about this a lot. And because I'm an illustrator, I think having like the first ever good illustration that I would consider good that I ever did, which was like a little bird thing, a really cute little bird thing, I'd probably get something like that.
And that's amazing, because then you can also get your own artwork as well.
Yeah,
which would be really special. Oh, that would be so cute. A little bird.
Little cartoon bird.
And to be fair, like each dragon took about 10 minutes, so you wouldn't even have to sit there for long. Yeah, it took just over half an hour for all of them, but each one was about 10 minutes. So if it was a little bird, you could probably get away with about 10 minutes.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
I don't know how people do all-day sessions, but
no, because some people have really, really big, like heavily coloured kind of tattoos, like all down their back and stuff, don't they?
Yeah, my best friend has nearly a whole sleeve, so she books in for whole days. Well, I don't think I could do that. You wouldn't get me there if I knew I was sitting there for the whole day.
I'd have to schedule in a sleep halfway through. Like, do you mind if we just take a 2-hour nap? And they'd be like, what?
Well, maybe if you got so relaxed, you could just sleep while I did it.
Maybe.
Kind of stick your arm up and be like, take it. I'm gonna sleep.
I love that. That's amazing. I'd have to have a sleep, and I'd have to have a big bag of snacks as well. Like those two together, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. I'm the same.
Oh gosh. So anyway, going back to your blog, like I say, I have to say I love your blog. It's so funny. It's just cute and relatable, and I love the fact that Disney goes through your experiences with you. Can you tell us a little bit more about your blog? I know we've touched on it a little bit already, but like, what kind of things do you like to write about? Do you do like product reviews and things?
I do a little bit of everything. So I started it, it's nearly exactly 3 years actually.
Oh wow.
And it was one of those things that I kind of had in the back of my mind. But after that first initial feeling awful with MS, I'd kind of got back into the rhythm of life again.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, I hit another relapse. A lot of time was spent at home with not much to do. And I hate that time where you don't actually feel like you're doing anything or achieving anything. And it gets boring. When I have a bad patch or a relapse, I'm okay for about a week. I'm all into the looking after myself, sleeping, just watching things, but then I start to get a bit fed up with it. So I was kind of looking for something to do to kind of actually feel like I was achieving something with that time. And I kind of thought, okay, I've always been a bit worried about and a bit scared of starting a blog. And I thought, I'm actually just going to do it. Even if I just make it and just sit it there, at least it'll give me something to do. And I do find that anything like that takes me ages to learn. So it would take me a day just to figure out how to put a picture on or something. It took me so long to figure out, but actually it was really good because it gave me a proper little project to be able to do. And then me and Dizzy just like went out into the garden, took pictures outside. So it was all kind of things that I could do at home. But it really amused me. I'd be like, oh, what kind of pictures can we go out and take tomorrow? So it was actually a really lovely thing to do in that time.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
It's very important to give yourself a project when you're having that sort of length of time, because you do just feel so lost and just so like fed up with yourself, and your mental health starts being affected then as well. So it's just like, yeah, it's just setting yourself a project, a goal, something.
It really helps because it's a really difficult time. I think especially with Facebook and things, you see all your friends doing all these different things.
Yeah, and you're like, I want to do that.
And you're just sitting there thinking, I haven't done anything in 3 weeks except watch Netflix. Yeah. So you really start to get fed up. And I think having something like that makes such a difference.
Definitely, and it gives you purpose again. I think that's a huge one as well.
That was really nice. And then, so my main thing at first was just getting it up, just creating it. And I think I just wanted to there's a couple of different reasons. One was literally just give myself something to do, and I really enjoyed taking the pictures, and I just love donkeys and little Dizzy and everything. But then at the same time I started thinking, actually I'd like to do something that other people can relate to and read as well, because I do find when you're first diagnosed it is such a lonely time. You don't really know where to go or where to look. I was looking on different websites and things, but a lot of them were people that had MS for longer, so they were kind of further down the journey, which is really useful. But when you're just diagnosed, you kind of want to tap into other people.
Exactly, it's quite scary as well.
Yeah, it's so scary, and everything's so new, and you don't know what to expect and what you're going to go through. So I also wanted something that other people could find, and maybe it would help them as well kind of know the different things to expect and experiences. And then also, like I was saying, make it not so scary. So I was hoping by seeing like little Dizzy and friends there, it kind of would make it more friendly and not such a scary thing to be taking on.
It definitely does that, I think. And it is, like I say, you can really relate to Dizzy, and I love the way that he has so many human characteristics.
Dizzy so completely own personality. No, carry on.
No, go on.
I can't remember what I was going to say now. No, carry on.
So I was going to say, have you also blogged for different companies as well? Because you have quite a lot of different logos and things on your blog.
I have blogged for most like MS, so MS Society, Shift.MS, MS Trust, which I really enjoyed doing. So I think Shift.MS, I emailed them because they were looking for bloggers.
Okay.
And then MS Society sent me a little email asking if I'd blog for them, and it's so nice. I find it the biggest compliment ever that someone actually wants Dizzy on their site. And it's just a really nice way of kind of meeting other people and reaching out to other people, because one of the things I love as well is it's great if other people find it useful, but it's actually really nice for me as a way of getting to meet other people as well.
Yeah,
I was going to say it sounds really lazy because they kind of come to me. But it was just such a nice way of getting to make links with people. So people visit my blog, and then I set up like my Twitter and Instagram to go with it as well.
Yeah.
And it's just been such an amazing way of getting to know so many people that also have the condition or other chronic conditions as well.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Because there are a lot of different conditions that are autoimmune conditions that do kind of overlap in symptoms sometimes.
Yeah, that have the same. So a lot of people still experience the same
Yeah.
fatigue and that kind of thing. I just never kind of expected to meet so many amazing people through it. People with MS seem to be lovely.
Well, I haven't met someone yet that's not nice, though.
No, like in life you do meet quite a lot of people that aren't that nice.
Yeah.
But when it comes to MS, everyone's just so lovely. So it's been really amazing to also have a little network where if I'm ever feeling a weird symptom, I can just pop it on Twitter, and you know that people are going to respond and be like, I had that last week.
Yeah, like,
or I'm going to,
oh, okay, that
yeah,
makes me feel
and it
better.
makes you feel so much better. And then also getting to meet people as well, and kind of having friends with MS has been just amazing, like so lovely. And I don't think I would have ever been brave enough to have done that and reached out if I hadn't done my blog first.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I set up like Dizzy the Donkey Twitter, because I was still a bit, when I set that up I was still a little bit nervous to kind of be like, it's me. So I had my separate Heather one and separate Dizzy one, and I don't think I would have been brave enough to have been straight away like, I'm Heather and I have MS, and because I was still in that processing. It takes so long to kind of process and accept and kind of be, it did feel like a little bit brave to be completely like, this is me and I have MS. So I think, I don't know if I'd have done that if I hadn't started off with the Dizzy stuff first.
But it was quite a nice way into it, isn't it? It wasn't like like you say, it's not like a, hi, I'm Heather and I have MS. It's more like a, you can kind of do it through something else, which is helpful.
Yeah, and at the time not everyone I knew kind of knew that I had it as well, so it was, I needed that kind of gentle breaking into it.
Absolutely. Do you think you have any advice for all the people currently going through maybe a diagnosis of their own, or just a difficult time in general?
I think my main thing would be just to look after yourself, because I think a lot of the time we very much feel like we have to be okay with things and get on with life, and we don't so much take a step back and think, right, I'm just going to look after me and sit and watch films all day and stuff chocolate and do all of that thing. And I think take time to look after yourself, not to panic. I think I do it whenever I'm having a bad patch. I always think of the worst case scenario. I'm such a worrier, I'm awful with it. But I think kind of, just take the time, try not to worry too much, because normally things aren't as bad as we kind of expect anyway.
Yeah, that's it as well, isn't it, sometimes?
And just kind of take things at the pace that you need to, because I know I did as well, kind of like I signed up straight away to like the MS Society magazine and that kind of stuff. And I remember when the first one came, I love the MS Society, so I'm not criticising them at all. But I remember when the first magazine came, and like all the adverts were for like wheelchairs and scooters and different walking aids. And I'd only been diagnosed a month. And at that stage, that really wasn't.
That wasn't helpful.
It wasn't helpful. So I think also find support groups, but find people that are in the same place that you are, and that you can help and relate to each other. And I also think if you are finding it a struggle, which I was, then there's also no harm in also looking at other routes of like counselling and that kind of thing, and getting that support.
Yeah,
as
definitely.
well.
Yeah, so it is a difficult thing, and it's hard to know where to turn when you first diagnose as well, especially when you diagnose young, because I kind of feel like everything is geared towards maybe an older generation at the moment.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
So yeah, and I would 100% say if you're wanting to find people your own age, I would highly recommend going on the Shift.MS database and looking.
They're amazing.
That is so much better, because I went to an MS group and it was literally, I wish someone had told me before I went, because I wouldn't have gone. It was literally like 50+ year olds, quite a lot of them in wheelchairs, quite far along, and I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified.
I've heard,
like a few months, and it was just.
and I have heard that quite a lot, because I volunteer with my local MS society, and it is very much more older people that are our members.
Yeah.
So I think, and then because of that, it's then tricky to get younger people involved as well. But Shift.MS is amazing because they kind of focus on when people are first diagnosed and that first part of your journey. And yeah, I love them. They're really good.
Yeah, it's great. And everybody on Shift.MS is kind of under the age of 40. So it is more of a younger platform, which is just great. And that's exactly the kind of thing that I want to create with Enabled Warriors as well, is to kind of be that support network through the early diagnosis stage when you're a young person.
Yeah, so that would be kind of, and I think also my last bit of advice as well would just be to be positive. So I know some people, and I did as well, you first get diagnosed and you think, oh my word, what does this mean for my life now and all my dreams and things?
Yeah.
And I think try not to think like that, because a lot of people, they either are able to continue with what they want to do, or if they're not, they actually find something else equally as amazing, or actually something that even works out better. So I also think, don't kind of think this is it.
Yeah,
It's not at all. It's just, you might just have to kind of find a slightly different pathway. I'm not saying it's going to be quite as easy because you've got to sleep all the time, but it doesn't mean that you have to give up on the things that you want to do.
No, exactly. And this podcast is just like the complete message of that, really. It's like, it's literally what you've done since your diagnosis that you would never have even thought that you would do.
Yeah, and those opportunities do come up. Like, there's so many different things that appear that you wouldn't expect. So I wouldn't have thought of doing like my blog and podcast and meeting all those people. I wouldn't have thought of becoming like a volunteer with the MS Society, which I love doing. So there are loads of opportunities that you can also explore.
Yeah, I mean, I say this every day, but I feel so blessed to have MS. I really do, because without it, I wouldn't be sat here talking to someone like you.
It's true, isn't it?
So it's just phenomenal.
And that's the thing, you get to meet so many amazing people, and it does also encourage you to do the things that you might not have done before as well.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to do horse riding, and I was like too scared to do that. But actually a year ago I started doing horse riding, and now it's my favourite part of the week. So it actually kind of encourages you to think, okay, taking a day at a time, I can do these things. Why am I putting it off when somewhere down the line I might not be able to, or I might not find it as easy to?
Yeah.
So I thought, no, I'm going to do it. And yeah, Mondays now is my favourite day because I get to go horse riding.
That's awesome. And you play the violin as well, don't you?
I'm learning to. So that's another thing that I took up as well. But I'm not musical at all. Nothing. Rhythm.
That's enough.
I'm enjoying it, but rhythm and beats and stuff, I struggle so much with. So for me, it's music and languages were the two things that I'm not naturally talented at all. It's a struggle, but I'm getting there. And today I had my lesson, and it kind of sounded like a tune. So if it sounds kind of like a tune, I'm quite impressed with myself.
And that's amazing.
That's pretty good.
The violin is a hard instrument to play.
Oh, well, it's been just over a year that I've been learning.
Oh, wow.
It's a slow process.
You'll be doing concerts before you know it.
I think I might be about 80, and then maybe. It's such a slow process, but I am enjoying it. And my violin's bright pink as well, so that always brings me pleasure to get to look at my violin.
I love that. That's so cute.
It's pink and sparkly, so that makes me happy on its own.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So before we go into the super quick secrets round, I have one more question to ask you, and this is a very, very important question. Are you ready for this?
I don't know. How important is it? No, I am.
So I saw this on your blog and I had to include it because I thought it was the best question ever. So if you were a dinosaur, what would you be and why?
I asked that before. I always say, so a brontosaurus.
Okay.
Because I'm a vegetarian and it's a veggie dinosaur, so it obviously has to be one that's not eating the other dinosaurs.
That's helpful.
So that one. Also, I'm quite little. He's quite a big dinosaur that doesn't go that fast. So slower pace of life definitely suits me. So I feel I can relate to this
that.
dinosaur.
It's kind
Just
of
plodding along, eating the leaves. I'm like, that sums me up.
I love that. That's amazing. Okay, enabled warriors. This is the part of the show where we find out a little bit more about the personality of our guest with some super quick secrets. Now, we've talked about all the heavy stuff already, so let's just have some fun. Are we ready? Here we go. What is the most inspiring book that you've ever read?
Harry Potter.
Love that. Which one?
Oh, all of them. I love the Harry Potter books. I just love them. I've read them so many times, and I love any stories where there's struggles but they overcome the struggles.
Yes, they are the best ones.
It really encourages you to keep going. If you're having a bad patch, if you can pick up a book where they shouldn't really come out on top but they do, I just love it. And I love getting in the fantasy world of things with the magic and Hogwarts
and dragons
and the dragons. I'm in my happy place when I'm reading Harry Potter.
Love that. Where's your favorite place that you've ever visited?
Mine is actually the Donkey Sanctuary. Well, firstly, obviously, because Dizzy came from there, so it has to be included. But I do absolutely love it. So their biggest one in Sidmouth, they have over 700 donkeys. I'm literally in heaven because you can just wander around and look at all the donkeys, and there's so many donkeys, and then the elderly donkeys they have out in the yard, so you can give the elderly donkeys a cuddle.
That's so sweet.
I love it. I absolutely love it there. One day I would quite like to live near there so I can volunteer.
Oh, that sounds great.
And you can volunteer to groom and cuddle the donkeys. Oh, that'd be so amazing. But I love it just because it's so peaceful and quiet, and I love animals, so you're surrounded by the donkeys. And also you look out onto the sea. They literally have the best place ever. Their view is out onto the sea.
Perfect.
So I think they've really got it sorted there with all their fields and the sea view and like their little heated barns and everything. I love it there.
And cuddles, constant cuddles. Yeah, they've got a good life there.
They've got a good life.
Oh, that's amazing. What is the scariest thing that you've ever done, do you think?
Recently, I'm going to say my tattoo. Because I was absolutely terrified, and anything with needles for me is so scary. So I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm sure I've done other scary things, but at the moment, this feels like the scariest thing that I've done.
That's awesome. But you got through it, and it's amazing, and the results are awesome.
I'm still alive.
You're still alive. Exactly. So where can other warriors find out more about you and what you do?
So they can find my blog website, which is dinosaurs.donkeys.ms.com. And then I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, which is just Dizzy the Donkey, all one word.
Awesome. So enabled warriors, make sure you go on Dinosaurs and Donkeys. Sorry, let me say that again. Dinosaurs, Donkeys, and MS.com, and go and check out the blog because Heather does an amazing job, and she also has a podcast as well. So do you want to just chat a little bit about your podcast quick, because I realise that we haven't actually yet talked about
it. Oh yeah, so I started my podcast it was a little while ago now, a year and a half I want to say, but one of the reasons why I started it was just because I was meeting so many amazing people, and I also wanted the chance to actually have a chat with them. So sometimes I feel very much like my blog is all about me. I try not to make it all about being Dizzy and our different experiences, and I do very much try to have advice on there and things as well, but I also wanted somewhere that we actually got the chance to chat to other people as well. And I thought it would be really useful to have other people's experiences and their little tips and tricks for living with MS. So I have it split in half. So the first half is chatting with one person and their experiences or a certain topic that's important to them. And then in the second half, I chat with Jen and Robert, and we will discuss some sort of topics that might be like exercise or stress or healthy eating, and just something that we all come up against at some point, and then it just gives people different viewpoints on it rather than just mine and Dizzy's.
That's brilliant. That's a really good idea. Maybe I should do that.
But we do really enjoy it. It's just lovely to get to talk to people as well, actually face to face, and having a chat with them is just amazing.
Yeah, totally. I really love that, and I love the fact that you are able to chat with so many different people as well when you do a podcast.
It's a really nice opportunity.
Yeah, totally. So, Enabled Warriors, you can connect with Heather at dinosaurs.donkeys.ms.com and Dizzy the Donkey on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Please go and check that out. That is amazing. And remember, Warriors, stay enabled. Thanks ever so much, Heather, and see you soon. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
If you want to fight back against your invisible illness and help take the dis out of disability, then join the tribe on Facebook, facebook.com/enabled warriors. If you love this podcast, click that subscribe button and never miss another episode. And remember, warriors, stay enabled.